there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. To be sensitive is to have a superpower. Hello there. It's Mandy Woodard, and this is Courageous Conversations. The show is all about our life journey and the growing and healing we go through. Sometimes it takes great courage to step out of where we are and choose a different path. I started this show because I wanted you to know that you are not alone, no matter where you are in your life journey. And my hope is that you will hear a story that I share or a conversation that I have, and you will get something out of it. You will have an aha moment or a realization, and you'll know what you need to do, because it is my belief that we are all here to help each other grow and become the best version of ourselves and find what our purpose is. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Let's get started. Hi, my friend. Thank you for tuning in today. Our topic today is one that I've wanted to have for a while. And it's just not, I just wait for the moment to feel right. And that's when I then will pour into what it is that I want to talk about. And my process before a podcast, I really just dive into it and read things that I've written. I tap in. What do I feel? What am I sensing? What are the needs? So, and all of that really goes along with what I am talking about today. But it's episode 34, and it is July 18th, 2023, when this episode goes live. And we are talking about highly sensitive people today. A highly sensitive person. It's an actual thing. And I've wanted to talk about this for a long time because I am a highly sensitive person. And I think that there are a lot of misconceptions about sensitivity. And even for those who are sensitive, maybe you feel as though you are a highly sensitive person, but you feel like it's not right. There's something wrong with you. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it today. And so I want to talk about it because I kind of want to help you rewrite those beliefs, because that's what they are. They are beliefs that have been planted in you from probably very young. And even if you're not a highly sensitive person, the way you perceive sensitive people, your beliefs probably were also created when you were young. So up front here, I want to tell you, I'm going to talk about the science side of this and the studies. And then I am going to get into the human design aspect and how it ties in. And for those of you who don't know, I do human design readings, especially in my sessions with my clients, because I find it to be incredibly powerful. And human design is a system that is used to help see you and the way that you are, and in such a light. It's like this permission slip. Because all the things that you thought were not okay about yourself, you then get to learn, no, that's just who you are. And human design, I find that system is a beautiful way to reconnect with yourself and walk yourself back home. And so I just also want to let you know and remind you that if you don't know your chart, if you've never looked into it, I do offer recordings of your chart. I just record a split screen of your chart and I talk through all of the aspects and then I email it to you so you can watch it as many times as you need. You can take notes. And then of course, afterwards, if you have questions or you want to schedule a one-on-one, I do also do virtual sessions and we can dive in and learn how to embody these things. I'll link all of that though in the show notes. So if you're interested and you want to learn more, you can do that. So being a highly sensitive person, I did not actually know this was a thing. I never knew that was a coined phrase or a type of person until just a few years ago when I was watching a documentary on Gaia. I think it's called Sensitivity, The Untold Truth. Highly recommend watching it, Whether you find that you are a sensitive person or not, I think the biggest thing with learning about this, it doesn't matter if you are or you aren't sensitive. You probably know someone who is sensitive. And so it can also help you know how to respond to them and treat them in those times where they may seem a little more heightened. But here's the thing. Sensitive or not, we have more than 5 senses. The 5 senses you're taught in school or from very young is the sense of sight, taste, sound, touch, and the sense of smell. Those are your 5 key senses. But here's the thing. We have more than that. You have this energetic sense also. Now, this one isn't talked about. It's considered woo by a lot of people. I don't find it to be woo. I find it to be what is. I just think it's been left out of the conversation. Even in science, it has been measured. The energetic frequency has been measured. And there are lots of documentaries, lots of studies that have been done on that bioenergetic field. There's been too many of those to then ignore it. So to me, this is not about trying to convince people that energy is real. Energy is real. We just had a lot of things left out of the conversation. And so that's kind of what I want to educate people on, is to know that that's a thing. Everything emits an energy, especially you, your animals, the things around you, the plants, the trees. There is an energy emitting off of it. And if you've ever walked into a room and you could cut the tension with the knife, like you could feel it, how can we ignore that? Maybe when you've walked in and you've sensed something, you've been made feel like you were crazy. I'm going to tell you that you're probably not crazy. You were very much picking up the energy of the room. And here's the thing. You can't ignore it anymore. We cannot ignore that bioenergetic sense. It's literally this beautiful force. It's in that your intuition really shows up. And in order to feel that, in order to really tap into that 6th sense, you have to find stillness. When we are living in chaos, when there's so much stress around us, we cannot tap into that sense. But it is vital. It is vital to your life and your life force, and really living a life that allows you to feel whole and good. And the more you can get into a space of stillness, whether that's through meditation or mindfulness or any type of practice that allows you to retreat, your intuition becomes louder. And I talk about intuition all the time because I just really believe it's part of my overall message. My overall theme is reminding you that you have this intuitive sense. And you know what decisions are right for you. And you know where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. And if you're ever walking down the street and something tells you turn the other way, that's your intuition. That's that intuitive center. And you're really called to listen to that. It won't steer you wrong. It really won't. Because every path leads you back to your destiny. Every path you take is directing you back to exactly where you're supposed to be. So, let's talk about what it means to be a highly sensitive person. And here's where I want to really pull up a resource to dive in and list it off. Because I want you to know this is not me just making this up. This is very much a thing. And I'm going to list you out the characteristics of a highly sensitive person. I am definitely going to link this resource in the show notes, but I am on simplypsychology.org. And I wanted to do this purposely. I wanted to give you the exact terms and the exact traits just because it's not something I want to brush over and paraphrase. So, a highly sensitive person is an individual who perceives and processes sensory information intensely and can exhibit a profound emotional response. There is a heightened empathy and requires periods of seclusion for relief and typically avoids distressing situations. I'm going to tell you, I cannot watch scary movies. I cannot watch intense, dramatic movies where someone's getting hurt or a child's being hurt or anything of the sort. And I know that it's because I'm a highly sensitive person. Okay, let me list you off some of these traits. Highly sensitive people know subtleties in their environment that other people don't pick up on. Highly sensitive people feel deeply affected by the moods of other people around them. And when people try to get them to do too many things at once, they quickly become overwhelmed by all of the demands. In a noisy or crowded, busy environment, they might feel they need to withdraw to get some relief from the stimulation of those surroundings. Highly sensitive people dislike change and tend to avoid having a lot going on due to the strong emotions associated with it. When they have to complete or perform in front of other people, they become so nervous that it negatively impacts their performance. Highly sensitive people might feel deeply moved by art and music. When other people are uncomfortable in a physical environment, highly sensitive people tend to be in tune with that and often know what needs to be done in order to make those people feel comfortable again. A highly sensitive person will also tend to be deeply affected by violent movies or the distress of other people because they take it on board and spend a lot of time processing it. They might also make it a priority to avoid anything upsetting. So I check every one of those boxes. And if you're listening and you do too, I don't know. When I watched that documentary and they went through all of this, so this term was coined by the psychologist Elaine Aron in the mid-90s, and she dove so far into highly sensitive people that she has been researching it throughout her entire career. So this is very, very well researched work. A highly sensitive person is thought to have increased or deeper central nervous system sensitivity, whether physical, emotional, environmental, or social. And this is not the same as a sensory processing disorder. This is a sensitivity. And so there's a big difference. This is not like a diagnosable condition. It's just a personality trait that 15 to 20% of our population have. That's why I say, if you aren't sensitive yourself, you probably know someone who is. But I want to say, just from my personal experience being this, like I've been this my entire life, and I've always been highly intuitive, always been highly in tune in my environment. And there have been times where it's been so overwhelming, so overwhelming. And the delayed processing thing, or is it just, it takes a long time to process things, especially when a traumatic event has happened. It's like in the moment, I go to this place where it's like, I've got to take care of business, and I put my focus solely on what needs to be done. I'm talking in an emergency situation. Like when my child has gotten hurt or a child has gotten sick and been extremely sick and I've had to take care of them. I will zone in the middle of crisis and handle business. But then 2, 3, 4, 5 days later, I am sitting with it, and it is taking me a long time to like work through it. I will think through all of the steps. I will think about the outcome that could have been and it becomes crippling sometimes if I'm not careful. And the key for me is meditation or doing something mindful. In fact, my newsletter a couple weeks ago, I talked about this. We had a lot going on personally. One of my kids got really hurt. We actually had to be rushed to a children's hospital, and it was extremely chaotic for a bit there. And we handled it. We handled the crisis. But then 3 and 4 days later, 5 days later, I was finding that here we go. We're in the processing. And I know this about myself now. So the mindfulness I practiced was not meditation. I sprayed down my patio and paid attention to like every little detail as I was spraying. This is how I was allowing myself to become mindful. So I was just really paying attention to the dirt and moving the dirt in certain ways. And then I got it all cleaned up and rearranged my furniture. And I did feel good afterwards. It was like a little therapy session for myself. But that slow processing, a lot of times, and they said this in the documentary, these are looked at like they are shy children. Like as a child, it looks like they are shy because when you go into an environment, they're hesitant to join in or jump right in. And it's not about being shy. It's about needing to take in all of the details and process it before fully going in and participating. So we have to be careful with that, saying, oh, she's just shy. You know, I have kids that are highly sensitive. A couple of my children are highly sensitive. Actually, I think all of my kids are probably highly sensitive. And I always have been mindful to say the words, oh, they're just shy. I like to say it just takes a moment. You just got to give her a little bit of time and then she'll be in. Especially my daughter, when she meets someone new, she's not quick to have a conversation with a stranger. But if you give her a moment, she will lean in and be there and participate. But she's not shy. She really isn't. And it can look like that. So the processing thing is something I really wanted to talk about. The next thing I really wanted to talk about with being highly sensitive is the number of men who are highly sensitive but haven't been able to really lean into that. Because I think the tides are turning. Things have definitely changed. I've done several episodes now talking about this, men's mental health. I've interviewed men and had them on, and I can see things are changing collectively in the world. But in the 90s, in the 2000s and prior, I mean, I can only speak to the time that I was alive. I was born in the 80s, and as long as I can remember, men have not been allowed to feel their feelings. It's man up, suck it up, stop being a wuss, all of these things. And what that did is it took an entire generation of men and pulled them away from who they really are at their core. And instead of being sensitive and leaning into that sensitivity, they started to become guarded and harsh. It looks different for everyone. I can't sit here and overall say, this is what happened to that person who went through that. I can't. I don't have that. I don't have those facts in front of me, but I can tell you it most certainly did damage. It most certainly did damage. I don't want to just put that all like just men, because there's definitely been women who have been told you're too sensitive or you're over dramatic or whatever is said. I mean, I have most definitely had those things be said to me, and it hurts. And so what happens is this numbing out and this disconnection from self and not feeling feelings at all. So it looks different for everyone. Some people, they truly numb out and they have no emotion. They don't feel anything. And I've seen this time and time and time again. I mean, in my practice, I see this with highly sensitive. And a lot of times that's women. They really numb out. But also men. I've also had men that way as well. And then I have the males that come through that are highly sensitive and they just think there's something wrong with them. Like, what is wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. And I get to then have this great privilege to say, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. To be sensitive is to have a superpower. I mean, I listed all of the things that maybe can seem negative of being a highly sensitive person. But how about the ability to appreciate art and beauty on such a deep level? To love someone on such a deep level. I mean, that pendulum swings both ways. It's as much as you can appreciate that beauty and as deep as you can feel that love is also as deep as you can feel that hurt and that pain. And that's scary. So we disconnect and we step out and we don't experience what we want to experience because there's that fear there. There's a lot of fears there. And I just want to help spread this message to come back into yourself. Allow yourself to be whole again. Allow yourself to feel what's coming up for you. And to get into that space of stillness so that you can tap back into that sixth sense. How powerful is it to have such strong intuition that you can walk into a room and sense what's off and what's not correct? A lot of times people will ask me, how do you know the difference between anxiety and intuition? And with anxiety, it's like this story that will play in your mind over and over again. And with intuition, it's that little whisper and it's just, you just know. It's just a knowing. Like your intuition's going to tell you like, hey, don't leave just yet. Just wait a minute. Your anxiety is going to play the nightmares and the stories before you leave and tell you you're going to get into a car accident. Your intuition's just going to redirect you. And it's just so matter of fact. And I've had to decipher this for myself because anytime I have to go on a long drive or we're traveling somewhere, oh yeah, my anxiety plays lots of unwanted movies and storylines in my head. I will literally see the car flipping on the road. And I know that that is not my intuition. I know that that is my anxiety. But when it's my intuition, it's this quiet whisper. And it's just, nope, it's not time yet. Just wait. Or, hey, go this way. You can trust your intuition. You cannot trust your anxiety. Anxiety can be a good thing. I really want to say that too, because anxiety can have us like kind of stop and think of the consequences before we do something. But sometimes anxiety rips and roars and makes decisions for you when you don't want it to. It can pull you out of alignment with yourself, really. There's this part in Gwendolyn Doyle's book, Untamed, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me, but she said, maybe I am a sensitive person, but to not be sensitive would mean that I'm insensitive, and that's no way I want to be. I read that before learning about sensitive people, and I actually wonder now if she knows that being a highly sensitive person is a thing, or if when she wrote that, she didn't know that. I read that book when I was going through a massive anxious time. I was like in major depression, major anxiety, and I was really feeling like my sensitivity was my downfall. Like it was such a pain in the butt to feel sensitive all the time. And it was so inconvenient for everyone around me. My husband, my kids. It's like, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why I felt things so deeply. In fact, I used to ask why. At that period of time, I would ask, why? Why do I have to feel things so deeply? Why does this have to be such a big deal to me? So when my clients come to me and say those things, I'm like, boy, do I get you. Boy, do I get you on just this level that you just, I can't even have the words. I like feel it. I resonate with it so much because I lived that. I also lived that. Maybe I am sensitive, but to not be would mean that I am insensitive, and that's no way I want to be. And if you're not sensitive, it doesn't mean that you are insensitive. It doesn't. You just maybe don't feel it on that deep, deep level. You don't feel things on that deep level. It's not that you can't have empathy or compassion if you are not a sensitive person. You know, I really wanted to talk about this because how we treat ourselves and how we treat other people really matters. And if you are beating yourself up for being a highly sensitive person, I would like you to stop now, please. No more of that. No more beating yourself up. And if you have a highly sensitive person that's close to you, and you maybe have caught yourself saying, stop being so damn sensitive all the time, now you know. Now you get to know that is just who they are. And there is nothing wrong with them. Now, we all can always mature in our way of being. We can improve our character traits. We can make sure that we're living out of integrity and honesty. And sometimes when we are in that highly sensitive space, it can be a lot. It really can. The feelings that I feel are a lot, and I'd imagine having to witness that is a lot. Like, oh my God, are we crying again? Yes, we are. And it doesn't feel so good. So please hang in there with me. I cry so much. I cry just hearing a beautiful song. I cry over looking at this beautiful piece of art. And for the longest time, I would try to hide my tears and pretend like I wasn't, especially if I was like watching a movie with my husband. It's even in a happy part. I never want him to be like, why are you crying? It's a known fact now that I am a highly sensitive person. So it's less questioned. It is what it is now. It's who I am. But I used to try to hide it. I used to try to hide that part of me. I really wanted to tie human design into this because it's something that comes up a lot. I run charts for people, and the second I see that gate, I'm like, ooh, you're sensitive. And I start listing the traits of a highly sensitive person, and they're like, check, check, check. They check the boxes. And then they're like, well, I don't feel anything. I'm like, well, then you've gone the other direction and you've numbed out, and we got to bring yourself back to your body. And that's what we're here to do. So it's gate 19 is the one that I have. And it connects to gate 49 for those of you who are into human design. And that is the channel of sensitivity. But even just having the gate. So the gate, I know if you don't know anything about human design, you're going to be like, what gate? What are you talking about? The gates are what come out of each of the centers. And so 19 comes out of your root center. So that is your tribal. That is your that has a lot to do with your territory and your tribal family and your environment. But to have this gate in Gene Keys, it's considered to be one with Earth. Some of the things that come up with this gate are this need to own the territory, to have that control in order to feel safe. And when you're operating in a lower frequency, it's fear-driven, and there's a lot of selfishness with it and a codependency. The higher frequencies of this gate into the true sensitivity and interdependence and noticing your needs as well as someone else's needs and really being able to balance the two. And what a practice that is to get to that point. And I think any time that my being highly sensitive has been quote unquote a problem, for lack of a better word, it's probably because I've been operating in that lower frequency and leaning into that selfishness and only looking out for the sake of my own fears. And so I may be a little more controlling in that space because I don't want things to happen. I don't want bad things to happen. And so a lot of people might say, well, that's a trauma response. And maybe, I don't know. I've had some big T traumas in my life, so it very well could be, but it's also part of my human design. And it's also part of being a highly sensitive person. So probably just the perfect storm of all the things. But that need to control is fear-based. And you don't have to have gate 19 to have that fear. A lot of people have that where they feel like they need to control things based on fears. And maybe that's for one of the different reasons that I listed, like you've had trauma in your life. For me though, it really all comes back to this, to just who I am. It's just a trait of who I am. And so When I lean into being a little bit more independent and break away from leaning on my environment or the people around me too much, I then am able to balance it more. Reconnecting with myself is vital. Taking time alone is just, I need it like you might think you would need a drink of water after walking through the desert for weeks on end. I have to have that alone time. It's what allows me to clear myself from everything that's been going on around me, but it also allows me to reconnect with myself. And connecting with the earth is a huge piece to this gate as well. So really feeling into the earth and the heartbeat of the earth. This is what is going to help you bring yourself back to center. There's a massive piece to this that has to do with connecting with animals as well, other mammals. So being able to have an animal or to go out into nature and spend time with them, like if you were to go to a farm where there are cows or horses and just spend some time there, this also is going to help you to reconnect with your senses and who you are. Because who you are is a highly sensitive person who feels things on such a deep level that you can sense the need of others around you as well as your own needs. And when I look at the information that I have about the gene keys and gate 19, the people with this gate are the healers and the shamans of the world. And it's because we can feel that energetic sense. We all have the ability to feel that energetic sense, but it's because of that heightened sensitivity that we can feel it. I don't know if it's more easily or more deeply, whatever the word is, but it just is. It just is what it is. I can feel the energy of a person. When I am doing Reiki and I am feeling and hovering over one's body, I can feel where that stagnant energy is. With my hands, I can feel it, or even my senses. I'll just sense it. I'll get an intuitive hit. I'll sense that there is something going on in the gut that is causing migraines. Like, I don't know that I can fully explain it and put it into words. It just is what it is. And of course, I have this gate. I know that I can connect with animals and know what they need. It's really a sad story, but when we were losing our dog, Marley Girl, last year, and it brings tears to my eyes to even think about this moment, but like sitting with her when she was at the end and knowing I never wanted to take her in and have her put down unless I absolutely had to, because I didn't want her to suffer, and trusting that she was going to let me know when it was time. And I just put my hands on her and I gave her Reiki and connected with her energetically. And she looked up at me at just the right moment, and I knew it was her saying, "It's time." And then I saw this ladybug crawling on the ground beside her. We were in my living room, so where this ladybug came from, I have no idea. We don't normally get them inside like this. And I've always felt my grandmother's presence from my mom's side every time I see a ladybug. And so she looked at me, gave me that look. I knew what she was saying. And then there was my grandmother, and it was all confirmation. And I do believe that whether you have this gate or not, whether you are a highly sensitive person or not, when you connect spiritually, when you get into that space of stillness, when you reconnect with self, you have that ability too. It's just more on the surface, I believe. If you are a highly sensitive person, or you have this gate. My husband does not have this channel. He is not a highly sensitive person, and he does not at all understand what I mean when I say that I get these messages or connect. Like, he will listen, he will hear me out, but he's like, I just can't understand it because I can't experience it. I don't experience it. Everybody's just different. And I do believe that we need highly sensitive people in this world because we need to be able to have that connectedness together with the people who are not highly sensitive. Like, I need to be able to be here. Well, that sounds very codependent, doesn't it? But I really appreciate, I guess, those differences between me and my husband, even though they've been very frustrating at times. But when you can have that understanding of each other and not trying to change the other person, that's when it can be this beautiful relationship. And we still don't always get that right. We really don't. It's forever a learning experience to be able to honor each other and our differences. And we even recorded a podcast episode about it. So there are no experts here. We are all just living life. Might be a few steps ahead of the other person and be able to say, hey, I know which way you need to go there. But we are all just living and learning, right? But if you have this gate 19, if you pull up your graph, or even if you purchase a reading from me and I get to tell you this, I have the great privilege to tell you this about yourself. Gosh, is it validating, by the way? So freaking validating to know, like, oh, I'm not crazy. Oh, I did sense that. And it is a thing. How beautiful. So if you have this gate, or even if you are a highly sensitive person, because just because you don't have gate 19 does not mean it's not possible for you to be a highly sensitive person. That's not true. They just kind of tie into each other. And if you have both, then woo, you are in for a ride. No, but really, what's needed is stillness. And if I were to tell you to go do anything after listening to this and realizing that you are these things, it's to go be still and go connect with the earth, connect with an animal, connect with yourself, and allow yourself to just kind of sit and sense the needs. You can even do it with plants. I've done this with plants. I've not paid attention for a long time to the plants we have in our house. My husband loves plants, and he is very good at taking care of them for the most part. He tends to overwater sometimes if I'm really going to throw him under the bus, but we won't do that today. But if I go and like sense the need, I will really be like, oh, okay, this plant needs to move over here, or this plant needs a little more water today, or this plant needs to go be closer to the window so it can get some sunshine. I can sense it. It's quite funny. The other thing you can do is go around your house and see what you don't need. See what you could give away to somebody else who needs it. And do you have something just because it brings you a sense of safety and security? And to not lean too much into that. We want to just trust. We want to trust that we will have exactly what we need when we need it. But realize the connectedness and that we are all one, because that is the big thing with gate 19, having this gate, is being so interconnected and knowing that we are connected with the earth and the plants. We all have that energy, that energetic field. And to then honor each other is such a beautiful thing. Listen, I want you to know this. I've said it a lot of times in this episode, and I'm just going to say it one more time. There is nothing wrong with you. If you are a highly sensitive person, or even if you are not, there is nothing wrong with you. You were made to be exactly the way you were supposed to be. Like, you are exactly who you are supposed to be. And if you ever learn anything from listening to this podcast or anything else that I share on social media, it's that you are really called to listen to your intuition. Do not ignore that inner voice, because it is here to guide you. And it will guide you down the exact right path that you are meant to go on. And if you've spent a lifetime of letting other people guide you and tell you what's right for you, then my friend, it is time to begin that journey of self-discovery and reconnecting with who you are at your core. And whether that begins with just practicing some meditation and sitting with yourself in stillness, or maybe learning more about your human design graph and what it means to be whatever type that you are, and how does that resonate for you? How does it connect for you? Where do you see what's true for you, or where you may be operating out of alignment? It's incredibly powerful to have that information. And I'm here to support you in that journey if that's something that you're interested in. All right. If you found anything to be helpful in this episode, please feel free to share it with a friend. Maybe they really need to hear it as well. Or maybe you know of a highly sensitive person and you think that this could really help offer them some insight into their traits and who they are. And if you'd like to give me a shout out on social media, I would be so grateful. My handle is @lifewithmandy_. It's really cool to get to do this. I'm really honored that you listened to this episode. And if you continue listening to future episodes or go back and binge through, please just know how appreciated you are, how grateful I am for you. And as always, I just want to say, please remember that you are loved and you are valued and you are appreciated. Bye now.